Greetings and welcome to Pop's Collection, where we dissect and reflect on a movie or TV show from my Pop's Collection. I'm Ron Tweedy. Joining me is Pops, and today we're going to do another list show. We're going to talk about our top 5 favorite trilogies, movies. So, yeah, welcome.
Welcome, everybody. So glad you're with us. The ever popular list show, the highly sometimes controversial list show.
Mm-hmm.
The one great thing that I like about this, and when you suggested it, I thought, there's not really a whole lot to choose from. But the more I thought about it, the more trilogies I came up with.
Yeah.
And, this is going to be, I think, a show that our listeners are probably going to say, what? How come this isn't on your list? Or you chose that over this? And hopefully I'll be able to express my feelings in a way that maybe if some of these trilogies you haven't seen, that maybe you'll watch,
Right. And I will say that, there might be more movies in a particular series, but we're selecting 3 movies out of them. So the term trilogy, and I even thought about like loosely related trilogies. For instance, I didn't make the list, but it was an honorable mention for me, is the Paul Verhoeven sci-fi trilogy, which is RoboCop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers. It's all directed by Paul Verhoeven. It's all futuristic, crazy, violent, crazy, stuff.
Yes, highly violent.
Yeah. So
might add,
you could, make make the argument that is, I would consider that an unofficial trilogy, but they all thematically are very similar.
Well, you could call that a director trilogy.
Yeah.
As for me, I thought about that, but there are some series that had more than 3 that I nixed off the list, not considering them trilogies because there was more than 3. So obviously you were a little bit more loose with your interpretation of that.
Well, I was actually going to even be more loose by doing every other Roger Moore Bond film, what is going to be on my list. But again, that was an honorable mention. But I do think that that as it of itself, but that ends up being 4 movies because he had a total of 7. So that doesn't work out too well.
No, it doesn't. And there again, too, that could be another controversial thing. Assuming you choose Moonraker and somebody thought, that there was another movie that should have been there in place of Moonraker.
Yeah, well, every other Roger Moore film, you have Live and Let Die, you have The Spy Who Loved Me, For Your Eyes Only, and View to a Kill.
Yes.
So, I mean, that one is, it's...
Right, which all of those movies I would say were definitely worthy, but again, not a trilogy. So...
All right.
Based on my interpretation, not the same, but you said that you did strike some loose ones. So
I took some creative license, and I think if we look at some of your choices again, it might be also a similar situation. I'll make the argument if it comes up. So, all right. So
I would like to hear that argument.
All right. So let me go ahead and share the deck. So you should be able to see it now. So we got that.
All right.
So we got that. And I'm going to pull up the presenter part. And let's go from there. All right. So.
Okay. All right. Number 5, is it on your list? You going first or am I going first?
You're going to go first this time because last time I went first. So we got the Dark Man trilogy from you.
Yes. And I don't know if you know this, but the first Darkman, actually, Sam Raimi
Okay.
was the director and also the writer of the character, him and his brother,
Okay.
based on the fact that it was, and actually, it was his very first Hollywood movie.
Okay.
He wanted to do The Shadow
Okay.
or Batman, but
Gotcha.
he couldn't get the rights to them.
Right.
So if you look at the cover of the first Darkman,
Yeah.
you'll notice that it kind of has a noir type feel to it.
Yeah.
He wanted to do like an homage to the 30s horror type films.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you had seen, or if you have you ever seen Darkman?
I have not.
Okay, well, I just have to say that from my youth, some of the horror movies back then, the recent color ones, based on the style of the special effects and everything,
Yeah.
it is so right there.
Okay.
Uh, he wanted to do that. I don't know if you're familiar with the character,
No.
but he
Nothing.
was a scientist who some the bad guys found him. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay.
He got disfigured, burnt, and he developed. He because he was a scientist, he tried to develop uh, something that would take away the burns and give him,
Yeah.
his facial features back. Didn't work. He wound up. It gave him superhuman abilities,
Hmm.
but the drawback was that it made him partially psychotic and insane.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's how we get this figure, and he decided to go for the bad guys with it.
Okay.
The first one actually came out in the movies. The other two were direct to DVD.
Okay.
So, but yes, that's my number five.
Cool. Yeah, and I can definitely respect that, particularly from someone like Raimi. If you can't get the rights to a certain character, just kind of do your own thing. I respect that
Right.
definitely.
And he did such a great job of it that Marvel
Yeah.
made numerous comics of it. So,
Okay. Okay. Cool.
so you're number five.
All right. Yep. So me, probably not a big surprise to most folks, is the Thor trilogy. Um, Again, I am well aware that there is a fourth Thor movie on the way, but I'm going to make the case that the first three films are their own thing, and the fourth one is going to be something different. So anyway, yeah, I know this isn't from a popularity standpoint. The first two Thor movies are not well regarded. I think the first one actually is a lot better than a lot of people say it is, and the second one, while it is a little troubled, um, you know, I've got my own thought about it. We handled them piecemeal for each of the episodes that we did for those individual movies, but I think that part of it has to do with the fact that some of the plot points in the first movie should have been actually in the second movie. The casket of eternal winters was definitely a plot device that was used by Malekith the Accursed, and at least the Walt Simonson run of Thor. And I think that's the reason why, switching that out for the ether probably wasn't the best move, but they had to do something to move the Infinity Saga plot along. So I think that's the reason why Thor: Dark World suffers as much as it does. But with as troubled as the second film is, the third film more than makes up for it with the um, just the craziness of everything that's Ragnarok, which is a perfect mix of the sci-fi Walt Simonson and then the Jack Kirby aesthetic of Thor. So that's what I think it makes it so good. So,
Well, I can appreciate that. I I have to say that I don't know if there is a trilogy that we're going to do
mm-hmm.
that one of the trilogy suffers a little bit of story content or something. Um,
Yeah.
I tried my best to alleviate that. Some of my honorable mentions, as a
Mhm.
matter of fact, the storylines, there are some that, oh, well, this particular one wasn't as good as the other two,
No.
or, and so I tried to reflect and get the best that I could,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I missed out on a lot. Thor is definitely a good choice for a number 5.
Yeah.
I think we could have done a top 10, but it would be a long episode if we did. So
Yeah, and we also, I think, would run the risk of having some overlap, which thankfully we don't have any, so we're good there.
really, I find that surprising.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought we would have some overlap,
yeah,
especially with my number 2.
yeah,
But that's great. Good.
yep. Okay,
All
cool.
right, number 4 then.
Yep, number 4 for you is the another Raimi joint, all the
Yes,
Spider-Man.
yes. I thought about doing an all Raimi,
Yeah,
Raimi trilogy, but
yeah,
not to be. And this one, a lot like yours, I think the Spider-Man 3 suffers in this one.
yeah, yeah. I
This
agree.
is my least most enjoyable one out of all of them.
Right.
Again, but I know that could have been because of the fact that I saw it on IMAX, and with all that action, it was hard to see everything. But
Yeah.
um, I definitely enjoyed this. This came at the right time.
Yeah.
After Spider-Man 1 was, for me, this is special because that's when I got your brothers into reading comics.
Right.
So we had already done that with Ninja Turtles, but
Right. Right.
that was their first shot at comics. So
Okay.
special to my heart
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree that the first two films are really strong. Yeah, entries in the thing, and it only serves to make the Tom Holland trilogy all the more rich having these. So
Yes, yes, absolutely.
all right, good deal.
All right, number 4 for you.
All right, so this is one of the creative license trilogies. This is for Star Trek, specifically the Spock trilogy, I'm calling it. So you start with the Wrath of Khan, and you watch 3 and 4 together. It's all one large narrative. You start off with the death of Spock at the end of the second one. The third one, you have his weird reborn into the Genesis planet, and then 4 is him coming back acclimated and getting that. So to me, it tells one big narrative, and again, having two of them are definitely the Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 4 are the stronger ones of the
Yes,
trilogy, both also directed by Leonard Nimoy. That
yes.
also kind of connects them together as well. So that's that's my pick for number 4.
Well, that's a great pick. I do have to say that I think that Star Trek 3 suffered because I feel like it was a telling of a story that you didn't really get to the end.
Okay.
That when you got the voyage home, that was, the completion of the story.
Okay.
And I think that it left a lot of people, it was too open ended at the end. Um, I love all of the Star Trek
Yeah.
movies, they're all very good, but
Yeah.
I do have to say 2, 3, and 4, like you say, they all are part of one continuous story.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think the other thing about the third one being a little controversial is that, it kind of cheapens Spock's death at the end of 2. And then it kind of goes through some weird plot devices in order to bring him back. So I think that's the other part of it that makes it a little less satisfying. But like I said, if you take it as a whole for all 4, 2, 3, and 4, it's more palatable, because that's how I saw it. I didn't watch the second one in the films, and then wait a couple of years in order to see the second one, and then wait a couple of years to get the fourth one. I got it all in one shot. So
right, which is the best way to do it.
yeah.
And which is why I like to buy the TV series and watch them on DVD, because you can watch it over a shorter period of time and the stories are fresh in your mind,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
But yes, definitely a very good choice.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So let's move on to your number 3 pick, which is the Blade trilogy.
Yes. And I'm pleased that we are at least talking a little bit about this. I did want to do some Blade shows,
okay,
which we haven't been able to do.
Yeah.
To discuss them more in depth. And I also would have liked to have done Darkman at one time. So
right.
Maybe it's a possibility we could still do that later. But Wesley Snipes is a great Blade.
Yeah.
I have to say. All the stories were written by David Goyer.
Okay. Yep.
And he actually directed the third one.
Wow.
We had Del Toro in the second one, and I think it was Norrington in the first, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But this is another one where they have enough in each of the stories to be able to link them together.
Yeah.
Like the Star Trek, the trilogy that you chose.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to use as my reference.
Yeah.
That it's more of a continuing story. I tried hard to do that. It's some of them not so easy to do that, but
right.
I think that these stories, each of them, you could take them individually, but you could also take them as a whole.
Okay.
And I mean, you can't go wrong when you get Triple H as a vampire, you know?
Okay. You say so.
Well, and you know, Chris Christopherson.
Right.
A lot of good people in there. So
sure.
We'll have to do that. Marvel.
Yeah.
You should like it.
It is. All right. Cool.
All right. You're number 3.
Well, I'm glad you brought up David S. Goyer, because that's directly related to my number 3, which is the Dark Knight trilogy.
Well, I think that's wonderful, because that's on my honorable mention.
Okay. Yeah. So again, it was one of the things where I wasn't completely sold on these films until a little bit later, kind of reviewing them later on. I ended up liking them a lot more than I thought I did originally. So I think they've aged very well. And, storytelling is great. The acting is great. The third one, probably the weakest out of 3. But again, you get a nice coherent story, and kind of things that were set up in the first film get concluded in the third film, which I really appreciate.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. I found that the story flowed very good, and Christopher Nolan did a good director's job on this,
Agreed.
I'm curious to see, for me, trilogy, it's something that I could watch all 3 again and again and again.
Okay.
So this definitely falls in that category.
Okay.
So you did good.
All right. Very good.
All right. So now we're down to number 2.
That's right. And you picked one that's very popular, Captain America, which again is not going to be considered. I don't, if you could consider it a trilogy after the new Falcon or what Sam Wilson comes out, because that's a movie in the works for that. So anyway,
at the moment, it
right.
is a trilogy.
Right.
And I felt like the stories flowed from movie to movie.
Mm-hmm.
I had Joe Johnson in the first one, my favorite.
Right.
Who did a wonderful job of that. Then you had the Russo brothers for the other 2, and we know how
Yeah.
action packed their stuff is.
Yep.
But Chris Evans did a great job. And I love, if you look at the covers,
Yeah.
all three are different Captain America costumes.
Well, yeah. I mean, they all are from different eras of, obviously the first one taking place way before the second two.
Right, but the second two are pretty close.
They are, and again, I'll bring up the old chestnut of mine that Civil War is not a Captain America movie, but that's that's the reason why I didn't make my list, because I
look at the cover. It says Captain America Civil War,
and there are two people on the cover, not just
I
Captain
don't know
America.
who that other guy is.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
He's an afterthought. Or he could be the villain in this. But I'm bummed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I somehow thought when I was choosing this that it would make your list, but
yeah,
evidently not.
No, Winter Soldier is one of my favorite movies of all time. But again, because I can't, Civil War to me is so disjointed. And again, First Avenger, which I do love, it's takes place 70 years before, the events of the second film. So
right. And we have to state, well, at the end of it, he's in present time.
Yeah.
I do have to say that you're right about the third one. And even though it was a great film, least of my favorites as far as Captain America goes.
Right.
All right. So if that's my number two, then what is your number two?
There are, you could consider them being four films, but these are the three that I care about, and that's the first class, timeline for X-Men, where we get
Dark Phoenix not in the.
Yeah, it doesn't count. The great thing about this one is that they made them period pieces, which I thought was brilliant. You have First Class taking place in the 60s, Days of Future Past in the 70s, and the Apocalypse
in the 80s.
Yeah, so to me, that actually is perfect because, the source material that they're borrowing from is really from that time period. And so they're able to be more faithful to the story that way. And just the way they did such a brilliant job, particularly with Future Past, with the time travel part of incorporating the younger versions of Eric and Charles and the older versions in that second film. It was perfect the way they handled that. So that's why it's a really enjoyable watch for me.
Oh yeah, all three of them are very much enjoyable for real. So that's a good choice. One that I thought of. So did you happen to take any pictures of your honorable mentions or no?
No, I didn't. So
okay, so before we get to number one, I'm going to tell you that I had already told you Batman Begins.
Right.
The Batman trilogy was my honorable mention.
Okay.
My other one was the first thing that really, I think, set it off, the MCU, and that would be the Iron Man trilogy.
Yeah.
With the third one being the most, the least of those.
Yeah.
So that would be my other honorable mention.
Okay.
And how about you? Did you have more than one?
Yeah. So I talked about the loose related Paul Verhoeven sci-fi trilogy.
Right.
There's also the other one that I thought of as, we haven't really talked about this at all, and I don't think it's in your collection, but the Lord of the Rings trilogy is another one that I would include. From a storytelling, that one is definitely the one of my favorites. So that would be the other one that I would think of. So
okay, and do you class that as a comic book or
no?
Okay,
no, it's
just
book.
a trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay, that's a good trilogy.
Yeah.
No question about that.
Yeah. So that'd be it for me.
And the Hobbit trilogy wasn't really a trilogy.
I don't consider that one, and they took so much license with the source material in that one. It's not. It's entertaining, but to me, it's not compelling at all.
No, it's a spectacular, epic type of movie. The way they tried to do it, make it so grandiose, but they, like you said, they kind of got off the story edge there.
Yeah.
Way more than once. So
yeah.
Okay, good, good.
All right.
All right. So then now we're down to the drum roll.
Okay. Let me go back and reshare. Number one
good,
for you.
I'll have some coffee.
Is the Star Wars trilogy.
The best of all trilogies ever.
Okay.
Which I'm stating, if anybody wants to, make a difference, they can say so. But that story in itself, I think, kind of set the whole tone for how a trilogy should be done.
Okay.
Every story connects to the next story, connects to the next story, to the point there where if you had the time, you could watch them all together and be totally satisfied,
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Don't disagree.
Okay, good. So we both had a space trilogy.
Yes, we did. Yep.
Very good.
All right.
So we get to your number one.
Yep. And again, this is one that's not a conventional trilogy that you would think, but I'm going to go for it. Daredevil seasons 1 through 3.
I have to say that I like that, but I chose not to do TV series like that. So you definitely went there.
Yeah.
And with this one, I don't know if it is probably my favorite of all of the superhero TV series, even as violent as it is. But it really, portrayed Daredevil, old costume, new costume.
Yeah.
It was great. No question about it.
Yeah.
If I would have had a third season of Punisher, I might have thought about that, but nah, you're right. I love it.
Yep.
A great choice, an excellent choice.
Yep.
And if you see in the middle, his outfit is just really. I so hope that Disney Plus does something with this, really.
Yeah.
Because I'd love the story to continue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it will in some, fashion. We talked about that a little bit, theorizing with the No Way Home talk that we did a few weeks back. So I do think that they're going to be utilizing Charlie Cox a lot more. My thought is that the next likely thing will be She-Hulk. So,
well, is there something in the work for She-Hulk?
Yeah, it's a Disney Plus series that's coming out this year. So,
well, I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say this right now and put this out there. Disney Plus, please put your series on DVD so I can own them in my collection and I don't have to buy pirated versions, please.
Yeah.
Which, I kind of hate doing that because usually if you get a pirated version, you don't get any of the extras.
Right.
Although sometimes there are no extras, but still, I think that the quality, when it's done by the producers, that it's a better quality.
Right.
So I would love to have Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'd love to have Loki. I'd love to have them all.
Yep.
So please.
Yep.
Uh, I have Mandalorian, but I don't know. I don't think they were put out by Disney, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So, anyways.
Okay.
All right. Wow. So, I guess there are so many trilogies. And as our listeners, you may have some different choices. We'd love to hear your top five. You
Sure.
could send us an email or,
Yep.
you know, pop it on our Facebook page or wherever else you can get it or you get us.
Yep.
We'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Very
Definitely.
good. Awesome. All right. Well, let's wrap it up there. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Pop's Collection. And as Pops just mentioned, feel free to drop us a comment on our platforms, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye and God bless.
Goodbye. God bless. Tell your friends.